Well, I think just to review a little bit from Saturday briefly, one, I love the way we played complementary football, and I feel like it's been that way for 2 weeks, where we're kind of feeding off of one another in all three phases. Whether it's getting a fourth down stop and then converting that into points offensively, whether it's going down and scoring and then getting a stop defensively so we're not trading points with people. So I love what we've been doing the last 2 weeks or the last 8 quarters from a complementary football standpoint. That's been really big, something we've been trying to preach. I'd be remiss if I didn't say it was an awesome atmosphere Saturday. I thought our fans were unbelievable. I thought they had an impact on the game. I thought they had an impact for our team. Their energy, we felt it. And hopefully, we're looking forward to the same thing here Saturday at 11 o'clock at DKR. We've got a great home field advantage. We know what it's like when our students, our fans are packed in here, rocking and rolling, fired up for the ball game early. We definitely feed off of that. Hopefully we can provide some energy to them with our play, because I do think it is impactful. We've like I said, this should be one of the most intimidating places to come and play in the country. I think we're getting better at creating that environment. We've got to do it again this Saturday against a really good opponent. Coach Campbell's done a great job at Iowa State, as we all know. These guys have been close in a lot of football games here, most recently the last two. Coming down to the wire. They played great defense, probably the best defense in our conference. Really sound, really disciplined, keep the ball in front, play good against the run. So we've got our work cut out for us there. And they do a good job of possessing the football offensively. And then they find their playmakers, most notably, Xavier Hutchinson, who's a dynamic wide receiver. So this is going to be a big week for us from a preparation standpoint, mental focus, intensity, to get ourselves in position to play well on Saturday.
Raise your hand if you have a question. Go to Mike, please. Start up front, Dennis.
Coach, I know the fan base is celebrating still the OU game. How long did you let your guys, take that in, and especially knowing that the fist fight that's coming with that Iowa State D?
We enjoyed it. I'd be remiss if I didn't let our staff, our players, our fans enjoy it, right? We did for 24 hours, whatever it was, not even that much. As a staff, we came in Sunday morning, watched the tape, graded the tape, put it to bed, and we got on to Iowa State. This morning we met with the players like we do on any other typical Monday. The first half of our meetings were to review the film from the ball game. The second half was to close the book on the Red River and move on to Iowa State. So very kind of typical format for us, as it would any other week. And I thought our guys really came out this morning with good intent, dialed into what we're trying to do. A lot of learning on a Monday for us, but I like the intent with where they're at. I think at the end of the day, we didn't play great last year against Iowa State at their place. We played decent in the first half. It really got overwhelmed in the second half. Didn't play very well in the third quarter. So I think our guys are hungry to go out and play a better brand of football this year.
On the outside, people probably only see it based on results, but on the inside, how do you know you're building the consistency the necessary consistency that you need for your team to be successful?
Well, like I said, I watch the intent of our players. I watch the focus. I watch the mental intensity. I think our guys are really dialed in. I listen at practice. And when you listen to conversations, it's about what's going on the play, or the adjustment that needs to be made on either side of the ball, or there's communication if the twos are in, the ones are watching and talking about what they would do or how to play the play. So to me, that tells me they're dialed into what we're trying to do. Body language says a lot. But I think also, it's listening to our leaders. We've got a really cool team that has grown up, that has matured, and ultimately, we can talk about culture, we can talk about maturity, we can talk about those things and put it on a board and all that. The reality of it is it's about our actions, and our actions are one that tell me that that's the direction we're headed in and continue to head in a positive way. Ultimately, we have to put it on the field Saturday. That's the key to the drill.
Coach, obviously your defense records a shutout, this past week. You guys are ranked 34th in the country, where last year you guys were ranked, 100th, and I think you're giving up an average of 18 points a game. So lots of improvement on that side of the ball. I'm just curious as to what has gone into that. Like, what has made this unit better? Is it the coaching staff, the addition of Gary? Is it the players being more comfortable? Like, what can you pinpoint?
Well, I think like anything, I have a saying I use. I have it written on my wall in my office. I think trust equals time plus consistency. And I think as coaches, we have to be consistent with our message. We have to be consistent with our style of play and what we're asking of them. We have to be consistent with our fundamentals, our techniques, our schemes. If we're consistent there, through time, the players will continue to develop trust in what we're teaching them and why we're teaching it to them. And then we have to celebrate the small victories. If we're teaching a certain fundamental or technique at 3 technique, and sometimes that play doesn't bear itself out to where you can celebrate the technique that the man's playing with, that's the proper one, we still have to celebrate it so that he understands he's doing it right over and over and over again. And then when the moment comes that technique is really important because of the play that's coming his way, man, now he really sees the value in it. So I think there's a level of consistency from the coaches. I think 2, ultimately it's complete buy-in from the players to what we're doing and why we're doing it. I think 3, I think we're playing hard. I really think our effort is as high as it's ever been. We're getting to the football. You see 11 guys flying to the ball. It's great effort. We tackle well. And I think schematically we're doing things from week to week that are beneficial to our success, and whether that's the players buying into the plan, whether that's the coaches putting the plan together, whether that's the coaches tapping into Coach Patterson and some of his expertise. I think it's all of that. It's all of that coming together that ultimately leads to success. And majority of us, man, when we have some success at something, generally we want more of it. But if you want more of something, you have to pay the price. You have to be willing to do the work to get more success, and I think we're getting that.
On your left, Coach, center.
Steve, your team, particularly your leaders, have been through some adversity in the last year or so. Now that you're experiencing some success, how important is that leadership to keep these younger guys on an even keel with some tough games coming up?
Well, I think one of the keys is not letting the little things slide. As coaches, I try to harp on those things. There's a level of discipline to the way we go about our business. Whether it's the way we dress on game day, going to a game, whether it's when we're conditioning that our hand is behind the line. They're simple things, but there's a level of discipline that's needed that I think carries over to the ball game. Whether it's keeping our locker room clean, because I think that's a sign of a disciplined team, that ultimately you play that way, that you're wired the right way. And the leadership by our veterans comes to when they see something that's not right. Maybe the locker room's not clean. Maybe a guy isn't dressed properly, that they take the initiative to get that rectified, that they don't wait for us as coaches to do it. And I'm seeing that more than I've ever seen it in my time here. And so that's the positive sign, that those guys are not wanting to let anything slip through the cracks, that their focus is heightened, not just in their play, but in everything that they do.
On your far right, Joe.
You mentioned Iowa State's defense, pretty similar structurally to what Oklahoma runs, but probably more proficient at running it. Was it good to get kind of proof of concept against this past week going into this week?
Well, I think schematically it's always helpful. We try to expose our guys to as much as we can throughout training camp. It's hard to replicate certain schemes in practice from a scout team perspective. So when you can get real live reps at some of those things, it's always helpful. Iowa State is really the pioneer of this defense, the 3-3 defense. They do a great job. They're not as simple as people would say from the outside. You just think, oh, it's 3-3 defense. It's too, these guys do a lot of really cool things, and they do it from week to week against different opponents. And so you've got to be prepared for the multiplicity that they can give you out of the original structure. So yeah, I do think it was beneficial for the baseline structure, but the way they go about doing it is a little bit different. And they do it at a really high level, and it helps because they have some veterans on that defense, whether it's Will McDonald, whether it's Vance, at middle linebacker who communicates really well, whether it's in the back end. They've got some veteran players that have played in this defense a while that they can make quick adjustments to the things that you try to attack them with.
Stay on the right. Terry.
Coach Sarkisian, when you looked at the tape with your staff and the players, there's a lot of players who contributed massive to the game's success. Can you talk about some of those players that jumped out that maybe they didn't appear on the stat sheet? And specifically Jordan Whittington, it seems like he's always there for those big plays blocking.
Well, I thought Jordan had a heck of a game. Obviously about 100 yards receiving. Just missed a touchdown there in the third quarter. Had some great perimeter blocks. Obviously, he and Xavier sprung Keelan Robinson to get in the end zone. I think Keelan Robinson is another guy who does a lot of little things for us that sometimes go unnoticed. I thought defensively, I thought our front, again, played really well. I know the Wildcat had us a little uneasy there for a minute, but our front kind of stayed the course to kind of pressure the quarterback and do things. And we roll a lot of guys there, so it's hard to say, oh, well, that guy didn't have 3 sacks. But, for the 30 plays he was in, he affected the quarterback 3 of those 30. That's a pretty good number. So there was a lot of guys that way. And even on special teams, different guys started to show up. And younger players are starting to show up now. I mean, Brendan Thompson goes in on one punt and goes down as a gunner and forces a fair catch. So guys are starting to grow up in the program as well. And that's a credit to our coaches that, we haven't stopped trying to develop our younger players in our program either. You're seeing more of Austin Jordan in there. We know about Jalen Gilbo and the opportunities he's getting. So we're continuing trying to push our younger players to play at a high level because depth should be our friend. We have to continue to develop those guys so that we have adequate depth.
In the middle, Kirk.
Jatavian and some of the players mentioned the revenge tour this year. Is that something you kind of buy into and push, or can that get in the way of what you're
I think like anything, for everybody involved, the outside world makes it sound like that this was a hard year last year on them. It was a pretty hard year on us, So, I think that a lot of our guys on our team, there's a lot of bad taste in their mouth from the way some of those games went last year and the opportunities that ultimately fell on us that we let go of. And so I think our players are really buying into the idea that, man, let's go play the way we're capable of playing and let's go finish the way we're capable of finishing. So I don't really think it's about anybody else as it is more about us, right? That we want to go out and show what we're capable of doing.
On your far left. Chip.
What did Quinn tell you about the interception that he threw against OU, and what gives you confidence about your offense doing a better job against Iowa State's defense this year?
First, he said it slipped. Then he said he thought it might have hit the wire. So, bad pass. Ball slipped out of his hands. He's trying to throw the ball away, and he just didn't get it out of bounds. So you can't fault him for that. Human error is human error. I get it. So that was that. I think that for us as a staff, ultimately we're always trying to put our players in the best position to have success. I didn't think I did a great job of that a year ago. I thought we had some opportunities to maybe seize some more momentum in that game in the first half, especially when our defense was playing well. We ended up going into the locker room ahead 7-3, but we just didn't perform great, and that falls on me ultimately as the head coach and the play caller. So we've got to do a better job of that. I think from a team perspective, I think our players have a little better understanding of what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do what we're doing. So ultimately, I think it's lending itself to a little better execution. But those two things tied together, hopefully we perform better than we did a year ago, and we need to. These guys are a very good defensive football team.
In the middle, Roger.
Coach, that throw aside from Quinn, he's played basically 9 quarters of college football. What have you seen the growth, and where does the growth continue with a guy that's a lot of the nation has seen him really good at times?
Well, I think there's a couple things that stand out to me with Quinn. One, he's just a natural passer, So I know that sounds like what is he? Just a broad scope of like of course a quarterback's a natural passer, but I think that when he throws the ball, the feel of the pass come naturally to him. It doesn't feel like it's a game plan thing or it's robotic like he did something in training with his quarterback coach. He's just dropping back, feeling the coverage, feeling our route, and he's throwing the ball and he throws people open. And so that's the first part. I think the second part with Quinn that is relatively unique for a guy that's only played about 9 quarters, he's very calm. I don't ever feel like the moment's too big for him. And he's been in some pretty big moments already in his career with Alabama here, Red River game. He just seems very calm, very clear-minded. There's not a lot of clutter up there. He knows what he's being asked to do, and he tries to operate it at a high level. And then when there are mistakes, some of which you guys don't see, but we're coaching him hard on, that maybe there's an error here, a misread there, or poor decision, he's very coachable in game. It's not like he doesn't understand what happened, or it's not like he's defiant and doesn't want to do it right. He's very clear-minded, he's very coachable, and he tries to do it right the next time. And as a coach, that's about all you can ask for.
On your left, Coach, Danny.
I'm Steve. When we talked to him last week, Jordan was very proud of his blocking ability, and I'm kind of wondering, is he an outlier in that, or is that something you, Coach Marion, really stressed from your receivers?
Well, we take a lot of pride in it. We ask these guys to block. We are a big perimeter team in the passing game with advantage throws. We're also a run-first offense, and we got to have the ability to run the football. And to be a really good running team, you got to go block secondary people. You got to block safeties. You got to block corners. So we take a lot of pride in that. And Jordan is kind of the lead dog there. And I think as the veteran in that room, he sets the tone for what the expectation is for the other receivers. And like I said, on Keelan's touchdown, as much as I love Jordan's block to spring him at the end, it really started with Xavier's block at the point of attack. And so all of a sudden now here's Xavier Worthy, who everyone is looking for big touchdowns and all these plays. He's straining and blocking a corner to start that play to score Bijan Robinson. That tells me we're playing really good team football, complementary football, and we're buying into all aspects of what we're asking of them.
Coach, Bijan had another fine day, 100 yards rushing. Is he getting enough respect nationally, in your opinion?
Probably not. And he'd never tell you that. The guy, I think he's got 11 touchdowns now. The first half of the season, he's gone over 100 yards. I think for the last 4 games, he's had over 100 yards, combined in every game that we've played. I think he scored a touchdown in every game we've played this season. With everybody knowing there's number 5, and we know everybody's game plan is to try to shut down number 5. So probably doesn't get enough national recognition, but we got a long way to go. We know what he's capable of. We've got a great room with he and Roshan and Keelan. We've got really skilled players around him, and I think our offensive line continually is getting better and better week in and week out, which was a young group, a lot of new faces. So all in all, I think we're only going to continue to see him grow, and I know that sounds crazy to say as a junior in college and all the expectation of what he is. But he's an unbelievable player. He's a great leader. He's a selfless player. I wish he would get more notoriety, but hopefully we can create a little bit more opportunities for him to make sure that he can.
So kind of piggybacking on that with the offensive line, as a play caller, how much confidence does it give you moving forward when you come off of a game in that environment where the quarterback's kept clean, and just to kind of get that consistent surge you saw from the offensive line kind of from that early second quarter on?
Yeah, I mean, it's very encouraging. I think that we're not perfect, and we've seen a multitude of looks here through the first half of the season. We're seeing a lot of different things. So these guys are kind of getting trial by fire. They're getting thrown to it, and there's a lot of different things happening. We didn't know what defense Oklahoma was going to play last week, and so we had to prepare for almost 2 different defenses. But I think the maturity that we're seeing of that group as they're growing up together. I mean, Jake Majors does a great job of putting it all together in the middle. You're seeing Cole Hudson continually improve. You're seeing Hayden Connor continually improve. Obviously, what Kelvin's doing at tackle. And then I think sometimes it goes unnoticed of Christian Jones, left tackle last year, kind of had his ups and downs, moving over to right tackle and was playing really good football for us. So all in all, it is encouraging to us that we can count on these guys to move people when we need to move them. One of my favorite plays in the game was the 3rd and 1 kind of backed up to start the second quarter. and we came off the ball and really knocked them off the ball in a physical manner, and then Roshan kind of runs through the safety. There was real intent to be a physical team right there, and I've said all along, I think good teams have the ability to run the ball when your opponent knows you're going to run the ball, and we were able to do that Saturday.
Two last ones, start with Jeff.
Mine's an O-line question as well. You mentioned how young they are, but they are a few games into the season. How much have you seen them grow from game one to right now, and in which ways have you seen them grow the most?
I think one thing that stands out to me is I think they're playing as a cohesive group. You know, it's not about one guy or another guy. I think they're working well together. That's a credit to Coach Flood, right, of getting them playing together. You know, we're operating on a string. The communication's been good. We're blocking well, whether it's in the zone scheme or the gap scheme stuff. But I also see some individual maturity starting to show up. You know, I think Kelvin Banks, as mature as he's been, as kind of mild-mannered as he's been, got feisty there in the first quarter. There was a moment where he got feisty, which I kind of appreciated because that told me he's growing in confidence, that he's understanding of the arena that he's in, and he feels good doing it. So I think we are maturing collectively, but also I'm seeing kind of individual growth and maturity happening throughout this process as well.
Hunter on the left.
So Jatavian Sanders is on pace to have one of the best seasons of a tight end in Texas history. What do you kind of expect the tight end position to look like with the return of Billingsley?
Yeah, it's great to have Jaleel back. It's just another addition for us. You know, I've said this all along that, you know, we're at our best offensively when we can do a lot of really good things because that makes us harder to defend. And so the more things we can do well, the harder we are to defend. Another weapon to be able to put on the field. Hopefully that makes us more difficult to defend. Again, we've got a multitude of personnel groupings, formations, motions, shifts, things of that nature. I think Jaleel can just add to that. It should not take away from JT at all. JT is a fantastic player and has earned the opportunities that he's getting in our offense. But again, week in and week out, you never know the matchups that are favorable to you. And we're always in search of those things from a coaching staff's perspective. But it's great to get Jaleel back out there. And again, it's another weapon for us that hopefully we can integrate into our offense to make us more difficult to defend.
Got one last one in the middle, Roger.
Sark, a lot of positivity, obviously. You guys were just voted National Team of the Week. Is that part of when you say, I want to monitor our intent, you like to celebrate all the stuff, but still you got 2 tough practices where you're going to be really locked in on how well they're locked in?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the key to the drill. I touched on it with them this morning. You know, one of the keys to be a great team is to not be influenced by the outside noise. And that noise can come a variety of ways, you know. It can come to tell you how great you are and how good you are, and now I made it, I've arrived, I can relax, and now you fall back. Or it can tell you how you're a bum, how bad you are, you guys stink, and man, I'm a bum, I'm a bad, I'm stinking. Now you buy into the lie. So I think one of the keys is you've got to rinse and repeat, and you've got to rinse the last ball game, and then you got to dive right back into what got you to that level of success the last week or the last 2 weeks, and then you've got to try to recreate it. And you don't recreate it with necessarily the same schemes because we may call different things. You recreate it with your same preparation, your same recovery, your same intent, mental focus, mental intensity in meetings. That's how you recreate it. And I think that our players are starting to understand that. It's taken us a minute to get to this point. But like I said, coming out of this morning's meetings and practice, I feel really good about the space that we're in as a team and for the majority of the players on our team individually. So we got to continue to work at that. And like you said, Tuesday and Wednesday are very critical in our program for our success come Saturday.